Let me get started by going first to Jonathan for a quick overview of the latest developments over the weekend. We've had a flurry of summits, we've had Joe Biden's trip to Poland, and his very strong remarks in Warsaw, which people are walking away and has caused quite a stir. Now, Jonathan, give us a reading of all of this. And first, was the remarks scripted or a slip? And then help us make sense of all of it.
Well, the remarks which suggested that we cannot get any deal done while Putin is in power was clearly unscripted. That was the president misspeaking. It was a bit unfortunate because, as you mentioned, there was a flurry of activities in Brussels, the Belgian capital. We had no less than 3 summits condensed in one day. It was a bit unfortunate that the president came up with a statement for 2 reasons. First, because it suggested more extreme positions than the ones the Europeans have. We don't have a great record of talking about regime change, and we shouldn't talk about regime change. Secondly, because it actually highlighted a very big problem that we face, which is how do we roll back from this the moment the guns stop firing? What sanctions can be lifted? What kind of dialogue can you have with a person that has sent a quarter of a 41 million strong nation into internal or external exile? So in many respects, it was a misstatement which was quickly dialed back by US officials, but it actually exposed some much, much bigger problems in the near future.
I'm going to turn now to Ravi, because you've been watching crises like these come and go over the decades as well. Having watched what's been happening over the last month, what's your reading of the situation today?
Warren, any discussion on this must start with the absolute resilience shown by the Ukrainians under tremendous odds. And especially for us in a small country like this, it's quite a bracing thing to see a people stand up for themselves. And I think President Zelensky has acquitted himself fairly well. People dismissed him as a comedian and all that, but the kind of leadership he's shown has been sort of exemplar to the world. The other thing that's puzzled me about this whole thing is I'm surprised to see how poor Russian intelligence has been in all this. More than the military setbacks, which people have been writing about, is the setbacks in the intelligence, the absolute intelligence failure. I mean, the kind of feed that Putin has been getting these past months has been exposed to be completely wrong. And that's a big surprise to me.
There's a specific question here from one of our subscribers, Mr. Tan Yok Chaw, who's asking about the difference of approach towards India and China, both of whom have not come out against the war and refuse to distance themselves from Mr. Putin's actions. What are you hearing from our bureaus about this, Bhagya?
That's an interesting question, and the West's response to this is very interesting. The US, as well as I think the other liberal democracies which are part of the Quad, for instance. So we've seen that West has been pretty critical of the Chinese stance, to stay neutral, to abstain, and in particular of the strategic partnership which China has struck with Russia, the no limits partnership. So about a week ago, that summit which took place, the virtual summit and talk between President Xi and President Biden, that led to Biden warning China of consequences should China come to Russia's aid.
Don, there's a sense that China is trying to sort of be strategically disciplined and not get drawn into a conflict which it doesn't see it as it being in its interest in the long term. It really wants to focus on building up its economy and its power. And do you think they will be able to continue to straddle this line, or is there some point where inevitably they get drawn into this?
I do think that because this is such an important year for China, because they are heading into the 20th Party Congress in October or November, keeping the Chinese economy healthy is going to be their top priority, and they are particularly concerned about sanctions. It is a very, very touchy issue for China. And of course, Xi Jinping and Wang Yi have all routinely criticized the use of sanctions, and they've said that China does not want the sanctions to hurt it. So I think the bottom line for China is to really protect its economy. You know, its self-interest, its national interests come first. You know, that would be what it would be looking at first.